fabric is a fiber, is it not? Hey guys, I'm Bella, the Maker Mama boss lady behind Fiber and Fox. This is episode 77 of my podcast. Thanks for being here. I'm Bella, like I said, I'm a crochet designer. I also knit. I apparently sew now. I'm gonna maybe stop doing that in the intro just because it seems like it's becoming regularly scheduled content. And yeah, I like making stuff. I like talking about it here with you. So if that's what you're into, settle down and let's have a little chat about what I've been up to. I have utterly zero bits of admin, I think, which I don't know if that's a good thing, but nothing to report there. And I'm not wearing anything handmade, but we're going to talk about plenty of other handmade things, so that's fine. Just wearing a mama bear shirt, being a mama bear. And yeah, I have, again, a little bit of knitting, not a ton of finished objects, a little bit. Some gifted finished objects that are pretty adorable. A pinch of crocheting and kind of a handful of sewing. This is going to be a kind of sewing heavy. Not that I know what I'm talking about or know anything about sewing, but I'm going to talk to you about it because this is just part of the process, I guess. So if you like any of that stuff, let's dive on into it. Normally I would start with finished objects, but I think for the flow of things today, it would make more sense, you'll see after, to start with works in progress. And some of the works in progress from the last episode, the gray Shibui dandelion tank hasn't been touched, sitting in a bag. And the Sailor Swift tank top. So Sailor Swift top also hasn't been touched, sitting in a bag. They're both pretty close to being done, but just haven't got to them. My focus has been on what I'm going to talk to you about, finished objects in a couple minutes, some stuff that needed to be gifted. That was kind of the main focus. And now that that has been gifted, I have been working on my, we're never sure how to say it, Albina is what I'm going with, but that could very well be wrong, by Boylan Knitworks, Caitlin Hunter. I feel like I've covered it a whole bunch now in several episodes, and it's really not the most exciting make, particularly because mine's a solid color. It is meant to be a striped pullover. It is knit bottom up, and her sample was in a cotton linen blend, so that's what I'm working with. I am using yarn from Joann, which as far as I can tell is already, I mean, maybe not discontinued, but not well stocked. I feel like anytime Joann gets anything good, you need to scoop it up then and there because it will get picked over or discontinued immediately and you'll never be able to find it again. So thankfully I bought plenty of this when I did, but this is Patton's Linen, which is a 65% cotton, 35% linen blend. And this is the colorway Sweet Potato, and it is a DK weight. So Joann had a bunch of lovely colors. They had a really lovely mustard color that I really liked too. But now at least the one near me is very picked over and they're headed all towards the new fall yarns. So I don't know if it's still available online or what it will be long term, but it was a pretty well cost-effective way of getting cotton and linen blend yarn without having to have it shipped from somewhere. I'm not sure how it's going to wear in the long term. It has not a halo to it, but like fuzzies. Can we see the fuzzies? No, and my fingernail just looks gross, so we won't do that again. But it just kind of fuzz that comes off of it. I'm determined to show you this fuzz. It seems really unimportant, but can you see the fuzz tonight? There it is. Yeah, it just not really sheds, not really halos, and it isn't pilling. But it just seems to be expelling fuzz. Like if I went over with a lint roller, there would be like a red hue of lint. So we'll see what it does long term. I don't think it's going to pill, but I'm concerned it might not wear the very best. Usually plant-based fibers are pretty hard wearing. And this one's pretty pleasant to work with. I mean, it's not super hard on the hands. They're definitely more on the stiff side being plant-based fibers, but because it's like a blend. Linen by itself can be very crunchy and cotton can be very just kind of rough, like knitting with rope. So I don't know. It seems like it's a nice yarn, but I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to find it again or how it's going to hold up. So we shall see. But like I said, hers is striped. I opted for a solid color, and I'm kind of trying to see if I like the overall fit of it. So far, so good. There's a couple of things I might tweak if I did it again. I now have the body and one sleeve done. So I need to still do the neckline, which I think is just some simple ribbing, picking up around there. I have stitch markers galore going on, and I've been repurposing them into the sleeves. But yeah, anytime I split for anything, I like to stitch mark all the increases, decreases, so everything matches up, because sometimes I mess things up. But yeah, I wanted to see if I liked the fit of it as a pullover to then maybe make some tees, because it's a very simple bottom-up construction, and the fit seems pretty good. At this point, I will put in some footage of me trying it on. Like I said, it's just one sleeve right now. My daughter's like, that looks so cute. You should keep it that way. And I'm like, maybe, but the practicality, and we were like, well, what if we had snow pants that only have one leg? Or we talked about off-the-shoulder shirts that are long sleeve. Like, it's just not practical. Like, in what scenario do you need that? So my sweater is going to have 2 sleeves, but she was very excited about the 1 sleeve. So footage, here it is. But I'm thinking I think I'm knitting. Hang on, let me pause and tell you which size I'm actually knitting so I can give you accurate information. I think it's the 3rd or 4th size. One moment, hold please. So I am knitting the 3rd size in the pattern, which should give you, and this is a DK weight pattern like I said. It's originally, if you're curious, in Ritual Dyes Undine DK, but that's a little fancy, so Joanne Yarn was fine. The final circumference of the 3rd size should be 46.5 inches, and she recommends a fit of 8 to 10 inches of positive ease. So my bust is about, give or take the day, a 37. So that's somewhere in the realm of 9-ish or so inches of positive ease. And I think my gauges, I did gauge swatch and everything. I haven't rechecked, and sometimes the difference between knitting in the round on the bottom, from bottom up, and then splitting on the top to knit flat. Sometimes my gauge varies a little bit there, but the fit is great. As you saw, whatever's going on with my gauge and whatnot, I'm happy with the fit, and it's cotton linen, so I do expect it to grow. What I am surprised with is the fit of the sleeves, and I haven't actually compared in the pattern versus mine. I will when I block it out. The schematic there is included in the pattern, all the measurements, but it's fitting a little tighter than I thought, and it doesn't look like it fits that tight in the pattern, and I almost always go up a needle size on the sleeves, which isn't recommended in pattern, but I know just for me knitting small circumference that things tend to tighten up, so I went up from the recommended needle size on the sleeve and picked up the recommended amount of stitches and did all the decreases and whatnot, which, as you can see, there's a whole bunch for the 3rd size. And if I did it again, we'll see how it blocks out, because it might grow to be just perfect. It's not uncomfortable, but it's just like, I don't know, tighter than I would have thought for a pullover sweater, I guess. So I might, if I make it again and I don't like the final blocked fit of this, particularly if I'm making it in something that's not plant fiber, like a animal fiber, wool or something, I might go up to the pickup rate for the size large, which I wouldn't consider myself to have a size large, or not size large, the 4th size. In my mind, it's extra small, small, medium, but whatever. Whatever sizing you like to go by. The next size up is not one that would fit me bust circumference wise. But yeah, maybe just in this pattern, the arms are tighter. And I feel like in the Tanya, that's something that people have said. I could be wrong, but I think that's a tighter fitting sleeve as well. So maybe Caitlin Hunter just makes tight fitting sleeves. Those are the only 2 patterns I've knit by her, so I cannot attest. Although sometimes she'd be making like swan shows and stuff, and they have waist length sleeves. So I don't know, but that's my sweater. I like the color, I like the fit. I think it's going really well. I expect it to grow a little bit in blocking and just over time with wear, but hopefully not too much. That's what I have to share for now. I expect next time we chat, and I've been doing pretty good on the scheduling, so every other week, give or take, Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern, are we Eastern Daylight Time? Eastern Standard Time? Eastern. I think it's Eastern Daylight Time if you're doing the whole world thing, but I expect that to be done next time, and I was hoping to have it done for September because that seems like a really nice layer to toss on, and it's kind of got a beachy sort of feel to it, but not a very heavy sweater because of the plant-based fiber. But I think I'll have that done next time, and I will consider after I do the final blocking and measuring and all of that if I do want to make some more in either more plant-based fibers as a summer tee or actually do a straight version. I feel like it's a pretty versatile basic sweater pattern, so we'll see how it overall comes out, but so far I'm pretty happy with it. I keep having to do weird cutoffs there because I keep having sneezing fits, so sorry about that. But the next finished objects that I have to share are super cute and finished, but I had to gift them over the weekend. And I hadn't talked about them in the previous podcast because I literally have done it in that 2-week time span. With vacation and whatnot over the summer, I wasn't working on gift projects, but I knew that we'll call her my niece, I'll explain it better in the clip, but I knew I had a first birthday party coming up for a lovely little in my life, and making little girl makes is just really fun. I always feel bad when people are like, oh, boys' clothes are no fun. It's not fun to shop for a little boy. It is. Like, it's fun. I have a son and a daughter, and they're both super fun. But as far as handmade items, I have to say, making stuff for my daughter, I have had more fun with. And that hurts me to say. I love my son. And I'm going to make him so many hats and cozy things for the winter. But just as far as whimsical and like cutesy stuff, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have really enjoyed making things for my daughter. So I wanted to make some things that I had made previously for my niece. So I'm going to insert a clip from Bella from the past that I filmed before I went to the birthday party to show you the lovely handmade, hand-dyed, and there's a little bit of sewing in there just because I did the clip all together and it seemed weird to cut it up, but a knit finished object, a crochet finished object, and a sewing finished object. Please do enjoy. Going over to you, Bella from the past. Thank you, Bella from the past, present, past, future. Whatever. I'm Bella from the past, and I'm here because I remembered I needed to record this before I wrap these gifts and give them, and I wanted to make sure I showed you. So these are some cute little girl items. I have to say, having a daughter and a son, I hate to say it, but making the cute little girl items is a little more fun. My son's really into hats, so I'm going to knit him all sorts of hats come winter. And I've been browsing on Ravelry trying to find him some fun sweaters, pullovers or cardigans or otherwise. I don't know what otherwise would be. That's kind of the two categories of sweaters. And I don't know. I just haven't found any that I super love that aren't, I don't know, not really any statement pieces. There's tons of like, you know, petite knit ones that are like that very classic store-bought look. But I really like the like clearly handmade but not homemade kind of thing. So if anybody has any great little boy pattern suggestions, I'm open to those. But anyway, I wanted to make some things. We're going to call her my niece, but technically she's my cousin's daughter. So I think she's my first cousin once removed because we share a grandparent. If you want my husband to just fascinate you at parties, I don't know when you'd be at parties with my husband, but one of his favorite things to talk about is the difference between first cousins and second cousins and first cousins once removed and how that whole lineage works. He really likes to argue that point with people. So I think she's my first cousin once removed. Either way, whatever, we're gonna call her my niece because that's just easier to say. But she's turning 1 and we have her birthday party today, so I need to wrap these up. But I made her a couple things that I had previously made for my daughter when she was about that age that we just really enjoyed. She used a lot, looked super cute on her, and the nostalgia, I wanted to make them again. So first up, this is the Topaz cardigan by the Velvet Acorn, who's Heidi May. She has a lot of patterns that are beautiful, beautiful, whimsical little girl patterns. She doesn't have, I don't think any, I mean, there might be a couple gender neutrally type ones, but it's pretty much little girls and women's patterns. And she does a lot. I don't know if this one has that as an option, but she has a lot of patterns where there is a knit version and then a totally separate pattern that's a crochet version, and they're kind of like adjacent sisters, not twins, and you can tell they're the same inspiration, but they have different names and they're just kind of like side-by-side patterns, which is really cool from a designer standpoint. I've never done that. I design crochet stuff and I understand knit construction and whatnot, but wrapping your mind around, obviously the gauge is going to be different and the stitch counts to then end up with like the techniques and everything to end up with a similar outcome with 2 different fiber arts is really cool to me. So good job, Heidi May, on that. check out her Ravelry shop for sure. I've made a bunch of her patterns. I think I've made one for myself, but I've made a bunch for my daughter and just really enjoyed them. Both knit and crochet. So this one, like I said, made for my daughter when she was, I think, closer to 2, maybe 1.5. And I think when I made hers, I made the size 2 or 3. This is the 12 to 18 month. Like I said, my niece is turning 1. I kind of wish I had went with the size 2. This is pretty much on gauge, but my daughter, she ended up wearing it until it was like crop sleeve, crop length, and we just wore it until it didn't fit width-wise, because kids tend to grow in height a lot faster than they grow in width. So like sleeves get short, body gets short, but particularly for little girls, cropped is a cute option. So this is just a really sweet garter stitch detail, and all of the edgings are worked with the body of the sweater, so you don't have to pick anything up afterwards. The only thing after the fact is the 2 I-cord ties, which you could completely skip and just have an open front, but with a kid I feel like that's a little annoying with it falling off and having to wiggle it. So the tie is really nice and it's just cute. And we just got a ton of wear out of my daughter's, so I wanted to make another one for my niece. I had planned, my daughter's was actually in this, we'll talk about this in a second, but this color rather than this color. This is the little bit of remnant left over from my daughter's. I think this was the first naturally dyed yarn that I ever made. This was with avocado. And like I said, I'm going to talk about this pattern in 1 second, but I used up everything but like this tiniest little shred of a scrap. So this is all that I have left from that. But it's 2 fingering weight yarns held double. The pattern just calls for DK, but I didn't have any in a color that I wanted to use. But this is naturally dyed stovetop exhaust bath, which is the dye left over after you dye something else, from Pokeberry. And Pokeberry can kind of go a bunch of different hues. It can go more red, it can go more pink, it can go purple, depending on the temperature and the time and all of that. Stovetop, it tends to lean more of a hot pinkish color. So I had dyed up some yarn for my daughter, I think in 2022. And Pokeberry tends to fade over time, but it does maintain a pinkish tone throughout. I had made a little, I think it was called the Pretty Kitty pullover, colorwork cat pullover for my daughter with the Pokeberry as the main color, and then leftover, I think this was the exhaust bath from that. So it's kind of, it's showing up a little bit washed out, but it's like a peachy, light peachy pink. And I've had this in stash for a little bit from 2022, obviously. Because this color is not super great on my daughter or I think the warm undertone, I guess. I'm really trying to understand color theory and what colors look good, but I don't know, it's too similar to skin color for us. So I was holding on to it to hold it double with something else for my daughter, but I think for my niece it'll be good. She has more of a reddish blonde hair and blue eyes, and very, I want to say pale, very light, bright, palish. I'm describing her horribly. She's beautiful. Different skin shade than us. We're more orangey. So I think it'll just look better on her. But yeah, it came out lovely. It's a super quick. I did this within like a week. Super easy. All of her patterns that I've made, I haven't made, obviously. She has a huge collection, but all of her patterns are pretty straightforward. There's not like a ton of hand holding as far as extra pictures or tutorials or videos or anything. Like this one, it says work an I-cord, and it doesn't, if you haven't made that before, really walk you through how to do that. It tells you how to pick it up, but it doesn't give you like the tutorial on this is an I-cord. So if you're not familiar with that, you need to go find you some Very Pink Knits or something video and watch through that. But other than that, I think they're pretty beginner friendly patterns. There's nothing complicated about this, but if you're unfamiliar with some techniques, you might have to look up some extra stuff. But other than that, just beautiful. And yeah, so that's the Topaz cardigan. Wanted to share that with you before I wrapped it up. And then this is, like I said, leftover from just this little tiny nugget of the avocado yarn. This is a Vintage Dream bow, or one of the versions of the Vintage Dream bows, slightly modified, but this is by Bonnie of Woodland Stitchcraft, and I think I may have been a tester for this one, or I got the pattern like as soon as it came out. My daughter, she's going on 6 now, but moving up from basically when she had hair, as soon as we could put it in a ponytail, she's always had bows in her hair. So I had made a bunch of these. They come, I think they're meant to be worked with like a crochet thread in the pattern, but it's very easy to modify. This is fingering weight yarn, obviously. This I didn't hold double. modify the hook size or whatever to the sizes that you want. And I think there's about 4 different bow options in that one pattern. So it's a very economical, sweet little option if you have any little girl. And you could definitely like make the bows and affix them onto something else if you wanted to, but they're meant to be hair bows. And I just have a little alligator clip thing in through there. You could glue it in, but I feel like that I don't know, that kind of makes the yarn hard and crunchy. So it's just fed through the tie of the bow. And she has a step-by-step tutorial, very hand-holdy, on how to tie the bow so that it comes out looking, you know, like a nice little bow and everything. And just like pictures throughout, literally step by step. Very nice, great pattern. So I've made a ton of these in different variations. I think in the pattern, the change that I made is she calls for double crochets, and I did half double crochets because I just wanted it to be a little tighter because I was already using the fingering weight yarn versus the lace. And yeah, it came out cute, and it coordinates, doesn't exactly go, but I think it's going to be sweet, and we'll go with plenty of outfit options. So vintage dream bow with a topaz cardigan. And then we have just a pinch of sewing as well, because I was on a roll, and at some point in the podcast I do have a similar apron for my son that I made first for his birthday coming up in the fall, end of summer. And then I was on an apron kick. I do want to make my daughter one, but I kind of want to make her something a little fancier with some, she has a crochet apron, and she has several like vintage sewn aprons. So she doesn't really need an apron. But I do want to make her one that has either some like patchwork stuff going on or some ruffles or something cuter. This is a very basic flat, I don't know what the style of apron would be called, but a very basic tie pocket front apron. Oh, it's so cute. So I will at some point be showing the one for my son as well, but this was the second one that I made, all from just some scraps that I had in stash. If you've been around here, I'm working on learning to sew, and I have previously sewn. I'm trying to get good at sewing, but I had a whole stash of stuff from when I was sewing in high school that lived at my mom's house still. So I reclaimed all of that, and this is from some fabric that, I don't know, I must have gotten as remnants or something at some point, but it is... This isn't really lined. It's not lined, not reversible. It's the same on the front and the back. So it doesn't have like an inside ugly raw edge option. And then I made a pocket, and the pocket has a lining, contrast color, and then it's got 4 ties. I watched a bunch of videos on how to do aprons of different styles. The one that I most used, I've just been watching videos for like the construction of things. I didn't use the pattern for this. I think this is actually the video was from a free pattern that you can download the PDF and cut the shapes and whatever. I roughly followed that for my son. I didn't download the PDF or print anything. I just drew shapes and freehanded it. It's an apron, and I'm not super concerned about overall fit. And then basically I held my son's up, laid the fabric for this one down, and just made it smaller because my son's going on 2 and is a pretty big boy, and she's a tiny 1-year-old. This will probably still be big on her, but I know her mom likes to cook and do sourdough and stuff, so I'm sure she will be a kitchen helper. And if it's too long or anything, you can fold it up and tie it shorter and whatever. But the one that I was following in the video has an elastic casing on the neck. Instead of tie, it's just one, like a scrunchy kind of neck, so it's easier to pull on and off for the kids, which I like. That's a cute feature, but I wasn't sure about the height to make it, because I want it to fit her for a while. Obviously, an apron is very adjustable, and yeah, I didn't want to make it too close to her neck or so that it wouldn't fit her next year or anything like that. So I went for a tie, and yeah, I have no idea what any of this fabric is. I think it came from Joann originally, like 15 years ago, and yeah. I added this little button. My dad got me these with the intent of knit and crochet stuff. It says handmade with love by Bella. I have no idea where he got them from, but custom, and it's got a little like yarn heart on it. I haven't used them in any knit or crochet projects. They do look really cute on the front of like a hat brim. But as far as like sewing into the back of a sweater or something as a tag, this wood button would be annoying, obviously. And I just haven't had a spot on a garment where I would, even for sewing, where I'd want to place a random button. But I thought it looked cute on the apron. And I wouldn't really want to use them as like the actual buttons down a cardigan. And they're more of a tack than a button because you sew on the sides rather than through the center. So this, like, you wouldn't be able to button around, it would get caught. So yeah, just a cute little taggy, and that's really all there is to say about it. I didn't, like, you can see the straps aren't perfectly spaced, but everything is nicely enclosed, and I did a pretty good job, I think. And I top stitched everything, and the pocket doesn't look too janky, and it's pretty sturdy. It's, I mean, double layers of fabric, and I sewed it down and top stitched everything, and like, I think like the bottom curves look good. I think I did pretty good. And it all kind of has a color scheme going to it. So I'm excited about that. I think that came out really sweet, and I still have just a bit of this fabric left. And I don't even know like fabric quantities that I even have. I haven't, other than for making, like when I tried to make the skirt and stuff. I haven't been worried about yardages or whatever. I've just been using what I have and making things and learning. And I'm definitely, I don't think this looks like store bought or anything, but it doesn't scream like unfinished edges. It's falling apart. So I think it looks pretty good. Like, my edges are not super straight and nothing is super perfect, but I feel comfortable gifting this to someone. Not selling it, but gifting it to a family member. And I hope that they get a lot of use out of it in the kitchen and make lots of fun sourdough things. So those are the gifts, and I'm going to go wrap those and let my hair dry the rest of the way. Thank you for putting up with my freshly showered hair. We don't blow dry around here. And yeah, I guess we will pop back to Bella from the present. This may wind up being a shorter episode. I don't know. I keep trying to do them kind of regularly because I feel like if I'm tacking on the sewing content, and then like last time I had a bunch of acquisitions, I don't have any this time. The episodes are getting kind of long. I like to try to keep them in the 30-40 minute range, and we've been pushing an hour. So overall, I don't know what I'm going to do, but stuff will probably slow down once the school year and whatnot starts. But I do have some sewing content. I have been sewing some things. So I already showed you the apron that I made for the birthday, but I also made one for my son. I actually made it first, so I'll show you that, and then we'll talk about those back there. I made following, I cannot remember everything that I said in the clip, so I'm sorry if I repeat myself. I should have probably watched that back before recording this, but I was following some inspirations from various patterns and YouTube tutorial videos, because that is basically how I make everything that I make. I just watch a whole bunch of videos and then pick and choose buffet style bits that I like and throw in a sprinkling of things that I'm making up myself. So it's kind of what actually no, that's not how I learned how to crochet, because I didn't watch YouTube at that point. That was in the olden days. But I was into blogs and Etsy at that point, so I was like gathering inspiration in that way. But I'm very much a look at a bunch of things and then do my own thing kind of person. And I successfully taught myself how to crochet, and now, you know, can design patterns and consider myself doing this for a living. So I think that worked, my method, and knitting I pretty much taught myself from YouTube just about anything that I needed to know as well. So sewing, that's how we're gonna go as well. I have yet to make, in the recent past, a actual sewing pattern, like where you buy a pattern from either an indie pattern maker or like Simplicity at Joann's or something. I have yet to follow any patterns exactly. So this was a tutorial on how to make, I'll link it below, but it was how to make a basic like toddler sized apron, and I kind of sort of followed it and then kind of sort of freestyled. But this is some fabric. And you have to forgive me, I don't know about fabric. So this is like some thicker, I would say like a canvasy kind of fabric. And I made this double-sided apron, and I've had this blue fabric in my stash for actual forever. It's blue with orange stripes. And this red I thrifted last year thinking about making an apron for my son. He really likes to make, I can't say it as cute as he does. Recipes. He likes to cook in the kitchen, and he gets so excited. Like, even if I just take out the sourdough starter to add flour to it, he's like, help, recipe! And he wants me to get him a chair and an apron, and he needs to be involved. And my daughter very much likes to be in the kitchen as well, so we do a lot of cooking together. And so far I've just been tying one of my aprons over him and like folding folding it up so he's not tripping on it and like wrapping it around him several times or putting like a painting smock on it because he's messy. Like making brownies, he's head to toe chocolate by the end. But he really enjoys helping. He's going on 2. His birthday's coming up, so I thought making him a handmade little boy apron would be fun. And I had made my daughter, this thing has seen a lot of love, and she's definitely due for a larger one. I think this might have been for her 2nd birthday as well. I think so. It might have been her 3rd birthday. But I made this a forever ago for my daughter. It's got little fox buttons. It's crocheted out of some random cotton blend yarns that I had. Again, totally was winging it. No pattern. It's got like a ruffle skirt and some ties in purple and green, and it's got cute foxes on it. And it still fits her, but it doesn't cover as much of her as it did when she was tiny. Again, I don't know about apron styles. I don't know about sewing. I don't know about none of it. Faking it till I make it. So I don't know what this fabric is. I thrifted it and pulled it out of my old stash. But I followed the tutorial more or less just on how to do the construction as far as getting the straps on the inside and doing the fronts and the backs and all of that. I don't think the pattern included a pocket, but I added a pocket to both sides. And I think it just came out really cute. It's really hard to show an apron because it's just ever so floppy, but it's a very cute kid's apron. I used one color tie for the top and one color tie for the waist ties. And yeah, I don't know. It came out pretty good. And like you can see my seams on my top stitching on the pockets is like a little sloppy and whatnot. But I figured out how to do it, and the pockets are lined, so there's no like raw edges or anything. And overall, like I top stitched around all the edges on the apron, and the straps are all nice and finished. And I think this will be pretty hard wearing and washable and just cute. Just cute for my son. So that is one project that I got done, and I have just been cranking out like I've sewn like 4 things this week. Okay, 3 this week and then 1 the week before. It's been a busy sewing week for me. So I have an apron for my son. I'm also not struggling, but it's different. My daughter's birthday is almost into winter, end of fall, and my son's birthday is end of summer, almost into fall. Did I say that right? My daughter has a cold weather birthday, and my son still has a like back to school kind of weather birthday in New England. So it's different because I've always made my daughter like colorwork sweaters or hats or like knitted socks and stuff for her birthday. I really like handmade gifts. She really likes handmade gifts. So it's kind of just always been a tradition that I've handmade her some winter wear. But I feel weird doing that for my son. Not that he's going to super be excited about a sweater or anything at age 2. But I don't know what to make because his birthday's in September. So apron felt appropriate. And I will make him some sweaters or something going into Christmas or whatnot. I also want to do pajama pants for everybody. I usually do sweaters for like our Christmas photo. I have a lot of making to do come fall. But I sewed a couple dresses, or partially sewed a couple dresses. I have dresses, let me tell you about them. It's tricky to show a whole dress on camera. I will put in a picture cropped of my daughter wearing this, but this is fabric that we had picked out at Joann at the beginning of summer. They sell this like sheared. I'm not really sure how to say shirred. I've heard it kind of both in videos. Pre-squinkled up fabric that you can buy just, on the bolt in the top section of it is like this already. And then you just have to like do a side seam and finish the bottom, and you can do straps if you want, kind of thing. I forget what the actual measurement of the length is, but it's pretty long, too long for a little girl. So I feel like this is some sort of Cinderella mouse sewing moment or something. I don't know. This feels a silly way to hold a dress, but I made this dress. My daughter helped. She did the side seam with me. It only requires one side seam because you're just folding the pre-squiggled up fabric in half, seaming it down the side, and then cutting the hemline to what you want it to be. And because of that, there was some excess fabric, which then I was able to do some experimental straps on. Hers came out kind of wide set. I have a really hard time with straps. Same thing on mine. Really hard time. No matter how many times I try on and pin them and like even compare to existing garments, I have a really hard time getting the straps in the same spot and then the straps being the same length. And I didn't want to go tie shoulder route because I saw a lot of videos where you make like just like the apron, like a tube, and then you tie the shoulders. She doesn't like that in her car seat. She doesn't like any bows on the back of her, and she doesn't like the bows on the shoulder because it like is hard with the car seat straps. And for me, I didn't do that on mine because I also don't like it with my car seat straps. No, I have a car seat. I don't just like the feeling of the knot on my shoulder. And also with bra straps, it can get kind of weird because it like covers here and then it like shows on the top. So either way, I wasn't doing a tie strap. I didn't want to do a halter. I considered doing something stretchy, like making a tube and putting elastic through it for a stretchy strap, which I think would have worked pretty well, at least for hers. But I didn't do that. I, again, found a random video of somebody, I think, who was making the whole dress from scratch, showing you how to do this elasticated part, which I do have the elasticated thread for in a couple different colors, and I want to play around in making some tops like this, or dresses or whatnot. I just have yet to do it, but I do have some bobbins ready and whatever to do it's basically, if you aren't familiar, you put elastic in the bobbin, which is the bottom part. That's not showing very well. The bottom part of your sewing machine. So you have the thread coming out the top and then the thread coming out the bottom, which is like the back side of the fabric. So because it's elasticy, it just scrunches up the fabric because you're using regular thread on top and elastic on the back side, and it creates this puckering. So that's how those are made. These dresses are very trendy right now. I forgot where I was going with that. The tutorial. Someone was making a whole dress and she was just doing kind of an experimental flutter sleeve thing. And I saw that and I was like, oh, I think I have enough fabric on my daughter's at least to do a little flutter cap sleeve situation. I think her fabric was more, it wasn't a cotton that she was using. It was something like viscose or something that was a little more flowy, fluttery, but I think for this purpose it worked out okay. I think if I had done some more math ahead of time, we went in to Joann's to get something else, and these happened to be there, the fabrics at that time, and had a coupon and whatnot, so grabbed them, but I didn't do the math ahead of time as far as, okay, this is my daughter's bust, and this is how much extra fabric I'll have, and all of that sort of thing. So I think if I was to do these again, I would probably get an extra yard, half a yard of fabric or so if I wanted to do sleeves, or I kind of wished I had enough to do a ruffle around the bottom. And I looked at different laces and stuff that they had in the store, and they are just super picked over, and the ones that they do not have like hemline quantities. So I didn't do that, and I didn't have enough. I just had like a little bitty square left over once I did this, but didn't have enough to go around the bottom, but I did do the cute sleeve. I'm not going to try to super explain what I did, but basically is normally to do like a tube such as this. You fold it in half, sew down one side, and then flip it right side out by inverting it somehow. In this case, this is my strap, okay? So we fold the strap in half, and I stuck the little ruffle piece, which I had, there's no point in me explaining this. It's two-sided, so I had already sewn the ruffle, I had gathered it. It was like a little moon shape, half circle shape, or a moon shape. Gathered that up, stuck it inside so that it was then, I cannot. I made the sleeve. Go watch the tutorial. It's better than me explaining it. But yeah, so basically it's double-sided. There's no wrong side. It's all finished edges, and it's trapped in there. So this is all just one continuous piece that I then sewed on. Also had a really hard time sewing straps onto this. Like, it kind of just made the fabric do weird things. I wasn't sure where to sew. That one's really slappy. I don't know why I showed you that one. But yeah, it's hard attaching straps. Straps is not something I'm great at right now. But I did it. It came out cute. I put a little ribbon tag in the back so she can tell which is the front or the back, which was based solely on which side I did better. The sleeves, like I think I was ranting about previously, are a little wide set, and I had pulled them out and redone them at least once, if not more times. But she was like, no, off the shoulder is cute. So she's wearing a tank top underneath it, and she's really pleased with her off the shoulder option. Because she's big and fancy like that. So if it was up to just me, I would move the straps in a little bit. But it does fit, it does stay on, and she has a tank underneath anyway, so whatever. It came out cute. This fabric is pretty sheer. I didn't line it, but she usually wears shorts and whatnot underneath dresses, so it's all fine. But hers is just a really pretty wildflower print, and again, not perfect at all, but from a galloping horse at the speed of a moving almost 6-year-old, it does a trick, and it looks trendy and cute, and we did it together. She sewed the side seams, and I did all the fiddly bits. So I think it came out pretty good. Learning experience. We did it. Check it off the list. And then I made myself a dress. I've had the fabric since, I don't know, June, and it's end of August now. It's not the end of August, it's like the second week of August. Whew, I'm rushing things. But I've been pondering what to do with mine as far as straps, and I really wanted to have enough to ruffle the bottom or to do some sort of tiered thing, but I hadn't considered that, like I said, when I initially bought the fabric. And mine is like I always thought it was double gauze, but this says bubble gauze. Is bubble gauze and double gauze different? It's like squishy swaddle fabric. Again, I don't know about fabric, and I swear people have said double gauze. But the tag says bubble gauze. So I don't know. But like I said, in the store I only bought enough to go around myself with a little bit of room to spare. And since I've seen that if you are going to buy this fabric, you probably want to, just for the dress itself alone, not including like straps or ruffles or anything else. I think they said with this stretchy sheared stuff, your bust minus about 5 inches is usually pretty good for a fit. But you probably want to take seam allowance, a little extra, all of that in. They didn't cut my edge very straight, so I had to hack off some of that. But I ended up taking off about that much from the bottom, I don't know, 7 or so inches of extra fabric. I'm 5'3", and this was pretty long. Like I said, I didn't measure it from the get-go, but had about that much left. And I knew that wasn't going to be enough to do fancy straps or a ruffle on the bottom, obviously. So I had gone back and tried to find additional amounts of this fabric, which was also pre-shirred and whatever. And I did look in their gauze section, and none of the blacks matched. I'm very particular about black hues being the same if I'm going to combine them. So they had a couple blacks, and some were more of like gray black. Some of them were more like a blue black, just as far as undertones, and I didn't want to combine them to do a ruffle on the bottom or anything. So I did initially think of that, but I didn't think of buying extra fabric because it just seemed a waste to pay for the stretchy top part if I really just wanted the bottom piece to do ruffling, but they didn't have any that matched. I don't know. It is what it is. I bought it. But I ended up having to kind of improvise on the sleeves. I did a similar thing to what I did with my daughters, except I bought some little lace remnant. Like I said, they have very little lace in store or trims. It was very, very picked over, and what they did have, everything was like a yard or less. I think there was about 18 to 20 or so inches of this black lace that I got, and it's very pretty. I don't know if I can really show you because now it's all gathered, but it's very pretty lace, just like a florally pattern. And the blacks were similar enough that I felt okay combining it. So I did the same like sandwiching in between, turn out the tube strap thing that I did on my daughters, but just with lace this time instead of making that ruffle piece. Hers is a little more curved, so it tapers in towards the bottom, but the lace was obviously just one straight cut of lace trim. So that's not as tapered and nice in that way. And I don't know, I really wish I had enough to do a bigger fluttery sleeve for myself. Or even like I've looked at different tutorials for doing like an actual like sleeve with extra fabric, making it long sleeve, short sleeve, some kind of gathered looking puffy peasant sleeve type thing. I think I would have rather have done that, but this works. For what I had, it works. And I had gone back a couple times trying to find another option of fabric that I could combine, and it just is what it is. I managed to, okay. So yesterday when I made this, I've had the fabric, like I said, for like 2 months now. It's been sitting, and I've just been kind of mulling over how I was going to deal with the straps and how long I wanted to make it. And then yesterday I was having a fit of nothing fits and everything is terrible, as we do, right? Having one of those days, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stick it to the dressmaking man. I don't know who I was sticking it to, but kids were in bed, my husband was out, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a dress and it's gonna fit. Take that, fast fashion, and this, I mean, isn't particularly slow fashion. It's pre-made from Joann, so it's not, I don't know what category that fits into, but I did sew it, and it does fit, and it looks pretty good. So I will put in some footage here of me wearing it. I don't think you could see it in the footage. In the pictures, I was wearing like my green walking sneakers. Couldn't be bothered to change, but I don't think you can see it in the video footage, but it fits pretty cute. But I decided to make this last night at about 9 p.m. I am not, a night owl. I'm very much a morning person. I have more pockets of time to myself at night once my kids are asleep. Because again, they're very interested in wanting to like sit on my lap while I sew and learn about sewing. And my son thinks it's a tool, which I mean, it is technically. So everybody wants to be in here when I'm sewing, so not getting a lot of sewing done during the day. So I've been trying to do it at night, but I'm just not a nighttime person. So I have to like think about the math in advance and the tricky bits, and even like I've been doing like the cutting during the day so I can then sew it at night. But this, I was just like, it's 9 o'clock, I'm making a dress, whatever. Just throw my hands up, that's what we're doing now. Sink or float. So it's not perfect. I worked on it from like 9 until like 11:30 last night, and I made a dress. On mine, let's see what I did differently. Other than the sleeves being slightly different, same basic construction. Somehow I managed, like I said, I am terrible at sleeves. I don't know if you can tell, but these are not joined, and I measured and I pinned and everything, and like the side is set in further than this side. Don't know why, don't know how. I could fix it. I have ripped them off a bunch of times already because I didn't like where they were sitting, how tight they were sitting, evenly, like a lot of sleeve adjustments. This is a strap, it's not even really a sleeve. But yeah, I might redo it again, but for now it's functional, it fits, covers my straps in the front, in the back, and it works. It's a dress. I did on mine just because you really only have to sew one seam, but I had excess fabric that I knew I was going to be cutting anyway, and it just felt better to have 2 side seams structurally. I felt like if I only had one, it was going to twist in a weird way, which that might not be a thing, because I feel like very often you do fold things in half and sew them. I have no idea what I'm talking about ever. So I sewed the open seam, and then I sewed on the side that was folded anyway. I didn't cut the edge that way. It's finished. It's good. I don't have a serger as of right now. I've talked about that. So I'm doing pinking shears and like zigzag overlocking, faking it. All of my edges. This double bubble gauze, whatever it's called, was a little fiddly to sew with in that you couldn't really iron it because then it's going to take out the bubble effect. I did iron a little bit on the straps and just to get things laying evenly, but you didn't want to press out the texture of it. So just like lining things up was a tad trickier than sewing with a flat cotton or linen and stuff that I've sewed with so far. But I think overall it came out pretty good. It goes pretty much down to my ankles. I used, where'd it go? I'm sitting on it. This is a store-bought thrifted Old Navy, and I think it's technically maternity, but it's really just a stretchy top dress with a big bottom and tie straps. Like I said, didn't want to do tie straps, but I based my measurements around this one, and strap placement, which I did incorrectly, and length and all of that around that, and I came out with a finished dress. If I had had excess of the fabric, like I said, I would have loved to have ruffled around the bottom, and I would have loved to have done some inseam pockets. which I could have still done with some like scrap black fabric or something, but I decided to make a dress at 9 p.m. So I ended up with a dress. It doesn't have pockets, but I don't think a sundress like would really sit super great if I put like my phone or something in my pocket. It would be a little askew if I put something heavy in it. So no pockets. Maybe next time. I definitely have some thoughts on how I would do this differently. But overall, I made a dress. It fits, it looks good, and it doesn't make me sad like trying on clothes. So it's a win, I guess. So if you can't tell, I'm completely making stuff up over here. I am faking it till I make it, like I said. I will next episode have some more actual knit and crochet content. The sewing is just going to be experimental and all over the place, and I have no niche right now, and I'm making for me, I'm making for my kids. I'm working with like thrifted scrap fabric and sheets and weird remnants from Joanne. Just trying to get a grip on this. So I hope someone is enjoying it. I'm sorry if you don't like the new sewing content, but I feel like a lot of us have a fiber arts as a pretty broad category. Fabric is a fiber, is it not? So making. Y'all like making. I like making. Thank you for being here for my making. I will put, I don't think I said at the beginning, show notes to any of the tutorials that I talked about. Linked down below, patterns, yarns when I can find them. That's all linked below, as well as if you want to jump on my mailing list or any other socials and whatnot are linked below. The mailing list at this point, I only send out like pattern releases and when a new YouTube video goes up, and nothing spammy, usually every other week or so, just so you're not missing content, because sometimes the algorithm is rude. But yeah, that's my spiel. I would love it if you like, subscribed, left me a comment, because it can get lonely over here talking to myself. Let me know what you think of the sewing content. If you sew, if you'd like to sew, if I'm confusing you with my super detailed sewing descriptions. Yeah. I can't believe it's going to be like fall making soon. I'm excited about it. I have many wools to work with. I don't know what I'm going to sew in the winter. I think I'm just going to practice various things, because I feel like I'm very much a sundress, long skirt. In the winter, I wear pants and I wear sweaters and I wear boots. In the summer, I wear dresses and skirts and sandals. And I don't know how to mesh all of that together into a cohesive year-round wardrobe. But I'm probably going to make a bunch of pajamas and cozy things and just practice getting good, so maybe next year I can make fancy dresses. Yeah, that's what I'm up to right now. I hope your summer is coming to a close happily, beautifully, and that you've really enjoyed yourself, if that is in fact the season that you're in right now when you're watching this. And yeah, pretty soon the whole back to school, we homeschool, so getting all of that planned and organized and ready is exciting, overwhelming, and fun. But my content will probably dip off a little bit for a couple weeks there in September, so I might catch you slightly less regularly, but I have been enjoying the every other week schedule again, because it's nice to chat. It's nice to have stuff to share and motivation to do the stuff to then share it. So thank you for hanging out with me. I have no idea how long this episode ended up being, but I feel like it might have been a pinch shorter, maybe. I appreciate you. Stick around. Let's talk more. Let's do this again sometime. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.